Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Susie Carter hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to make your first step towards explosive business growth, this is the right podcast for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Susie.
Welcome to this episode of Power Your Profit podcast. I'm your host, Susie Carter, and today's guest, Doug Sandler, is an entrepreneur, podcast industry leader. His book, Nice Guys Finish First, is a #1 ranked best-selling Amazon book, and as a podcast host of the Nice Guys on Business, Doug has interviewed Gary Vee, Ariane Huffington, John C. Maxwell, and a dozen of other celebrities. Doug is nationally and recognized speaker, writer, author of TurnKey Podcast Productions, providing podcast production, editing, and launch services. His Nice Guy podcast with over 1,000 episodes has been downloaded 3.5 million times in more than 175 countries. Please welcome my guest, Doug Sandler. Oh my gosh, Doug, I am so excited to have you. I know our community loves you. I know I love you. And this is such a hot topic. There's so many people that have podcasts, and then there's so many people that don't make money from podcasts. And I was watching a little interview with you and JJ, and she said 100% of her money comes from podcasts, which if that right there does not pique your interest, pay attention. Whether you're want to launch a podcast, do this before you launch a podcast, because we have some special juicy nuggets for you today. So Doug, welcome, and tell everybody who you serve and what your magic is.
Thank you so much, Susie. Well, we serve early stage entrepreneurs and mature entrepreneurs that are trying to figure out creative ways to market their business. And I can't think of a more creative way than podcasting to actually get your message out there, to build community, grow your influence, and to actually make some money. And there's so many people that don't make money podcasting. It's over 90%. We want to change all of that. And I love the idea of changing that with your community at the lead.
Exactly. So we come in hitting it hot. They don't have to go through the learning curve like I had to go through, you had to go through, so that we get that. Yeah. So tell me what your business is doing now, and how is it unique? There's so many different podcast people out there. Yeah. So many. So let's talk about what's your secret sauce and why do we go with you versus some other rando person?
So anybody can go to Google right now and type in podcast launch and probably get 8 billion results in a split second of how to launch a podcast properly. The challenge that many podcasters or people that are about to launch podcasts have is that once you launch a podcast, now what? Right. And where we really try to create that unique selling proposition, unique value proposition that we really want to provide to those entrepreneurs, either beginning stage or late stage, is help them to turn the corner on monetization. So the challenge that most people have is, now that they have this podcast, like, how do I actually connect this thing to my business and how do I make money with it? And that is an area that we have struggled for the first 2 years and worked out the process. And now we have this process that's been in place for now over 5 years, and we know it's tried and true. We've launched over 300 shows using this strategy in play, and it works. And we're happy to share that with your great community.
I love that. So how do we really measure the effectiveness of that? So how are you monetizing that? Give me some examples of what that looks like, because a lot of people talk about it, but you have examples and how you use it to monetize it.
Yeah. So most people, when they hear the words podcast monetization, they go to really one of two avenues. They go to sponsorship and advertising. And unless you're Joe Rogan or Tim Ferriss or Tony Robbins or Ron Burgundy, chances are better than not that that's not the way that normal people like you and me, well, I'll put myself in the normal category. You are definitely super normal, Susie, but I will put myself in the normal category and say most people are not going to bring the community of thousands, if not millions of people to the podcasting space already. So we teach people this strategy called the Guest to Gold strategy. It teaches people not to just focus on the community that you're growing that's listening to your podcast, but actually on that guest seat. How can you bring a guest onto your show that is closely aligned to the message that you have to offer, and do a joint venture partnership with them? Provide your services to that person that's sitting in the guest seat. Work out a way to have them be an affiliate, meaning they have a product or service that complements but doesn't compete with your product or service. And guest a referral source, which is a huge opportunity that so many podcasters are missing out. So I actually pre-qualify the people that are sitting in the guest seat to bring those four pillars of monetization to my show. And then we focus also on how can I actually monetize my audience? How can I sell services that I already have in place or am I thinking about creating? And sell those services to the people that are listening to the show. That tends to be the longer tail approach to making money with podcasting. The more immediate approach is that Guest to Gold strategy and those pillars that I was just sharing with you.
That is delicious. Juicy, juicy, juicy. Okay, so let's talk about it as a sales tool, because you use a podcast as a sales tool. So how do you leverage that so people get to know you? Because, most of us think a podcast is really one-dimensional, right? I get interviewed or I interview and then we're done. So let's talk about how you're using a podcast for the sales tool.
Yeah, let's talk about a triple win. A win that's good for you as a business owner, a win for the guest that's sitting in the guest seat, and a win for the person that's actually listening to the message that you're putting out there. So let's just take an example. Do you have who's in your audience? Like who's in your community? Coaches, authors, speakers? Who is that typically? Somebody that's in your audience, or
entrepreneurs who are experts in their field and they're leveraging speaking and authoring to
terrific
highlight what they're up to in the world.
All right, so let's just take the world of accounting. It's not
hugely a lot of doctors, PhD, like academia doctors.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about the PhD person, the one that has the best speaking platform that he wants to be able to share his message with a larger community, and podcasting is the tool in which he's trying to get his business. So I could just focus on sharing my message with a community, waiting for that community, somebody in the audience to raise their hand and say, Dr. Smith, I love what you're saying. Can you come out and talk at my conference? The problem with that is now we're leaving the audience in control of when it is that they're going to actually connect with you and say, come on into my audience and share your message. Instead, let's do this. Let's find someone that is potentially in need of your services, and let's put that person into the guest seat. So we're doing a couple things. We're sharing that guest's message with your community. Your community is learning from the guest message, because somebody that's buying my speaking services as a doctor probably also has a great story to share for your community to hear. So you're serving your community by sharing the message of the person that's sitting in the guest seat. You're also going to work through what I call the need of the guest that's sitting in that guest seat. So you're going to talk about their wins and their victories, talk about the things that they have done well, talk about their accolades, talk about all the stuff that they've done to become successful at whatever it is that they do. One of the questions that we're going to ask is, hey, when it comes to the conferences that you are working on, or it comes to the subject matter that you're dealing with, what's some of the things that you're still struggling with? Or maybe what's some of your initiatives for the upcoming months or the upcoming years? They're about to tell you what it's going to take to fill your services into that person's pocket. They're going to say, hey, this is the stuff that I'm still working on. And if you answer or you ask your questions properly, you're going to gear your questions towards what it is that person needs. Now, they're never going to see it, and they don't know it as a sales approach, because it's not a typical salesperson prospect dance. This is more of a interview-based selling, relationship selling. So you're going to have an opportunity to ask this person questions, and because you both have a microphone in front of you, you're asking them questions. They're actually going to tell you the truth. If I was to call a prospect and say, I am a keynote speaker, I have a great message, I'd love to bring my message to your community. Do you have any open slots for your speaking platform at your next conference? Chances are better than not that if you can even get through to that person, that they're probably going to say, well, that's, such and such's responsibility, or they're going to deflect whatever it is. However, if you say, hey, John, my name is Dr. Smith. I'm a speaker that works on behavioral sciences. I have a message that I would love to be able to share with you. And I know that you have a great message based upon what I'm reading about you to share with my community. Would you be open to sharing your message with my community of listeners from my podcast? There is a much greater likelihood that that person would say yes to building, at least starting the early phases of a relationship with you, if you ask it that way, as opposed to asking it as a salesperson coming across to them. So for me, I've used that strategy for probably 900 to 1,000 interviews over the last 7 years of my podcast. And absolutely, if you handle it properly and eloquently, and you don't come across as a bait and switch, or somebody that is trying to just maneuver, your way into their back pocket so that they pay you money to come and provide your services to them, you absolutely have a great opportunity to build a relationship with that person.
That's so smart. I'm just sitting here going, that's so smart. So obvious, but not. Right.
Well, the challenge is that most people just feel like the only person that should be served in the process of building a podcast is the community listening. And what I'm telling my clients is that it's not just the community that should be served. It should be your business, which actually is keeping the lights on, and that guest needs to be served too. And it's up to me to pre-qualify people that sit in that guest seat before I even allow them to come into the guest seat. I want to make sure that they, number one, have a great story, but secondly, have an opportunity to need potentially what I am selling, whether it's directly selling the services to them, or maybe using them as a referral source, or maybe finding out that they have a product or service that complements mine. Imagine putting somebody in the guest seat that runs a conference and say, not only do I think that I would be a good person to share my message with your community, but I'm going to help you sell tickets to your conference.
Right.
When you do stuff like that, now it's a win for you, it's a win for the guest, and it's a win for your community as well. And what greater partnership is that in the podcasting space that you can create?
That is so awesome. Okay, so let's talk about how you use, because again, you it's much deeper than what the average person uses their podcast for. So let's talk about it as a launch tool. So how do you use your podcast, or coach your team and coach your clients to use it as a launch tool?
So are you talking about how do we use it as a product launch tool, or the podcast launch itself?
Just podcasting as a launch tool.
Okay, so there's a few ways that we can use podcasting as a launch tool. So if I have a new product or service that's coming out, the obvious way that you can use it as a launch tool is actually just sharing your products or services with the community that's listening. If you have a brand new podcast, you're going to have a small listening audience, but you still have an opportunity to share a message with a community that's listening. If you have a podcast, if you have a launch that you have coming up, you have a specific product or services that you're introducing, use your podcast as the platform in which you're going to create all of your content. If you use your podcast and you do the video just like you do, you can start to slice and dice all that information up. You can create social media ads with that. You can create, you really are creating a platform that you're driving all of your traffic to. If you put all of this content on your website, it's just another element. People tend to consume content differently. Some people love it in video. Some people love to listen to in your ear. Some people love to get, I don't know anybody that loves to get emails, but people are getting emails nowadays, and we have a set 5 to 10% open rate. So what we want to try to do is just get as many different resources in the path of a potential person that is potentially a buyer of the services that you have. And if you're doing a launch, that would be a great tool to use. Podcasting is absolutely a terrific tool for product launches.
It totally is. When we launched our podcast, we did a whole media tour just around the podcast, right? To get that exposure, to get those quick wins. So you want to really look at how are you leveraging, how are you monetizing, how are you impacting, right? And Doug this is a bonus, because when I was researching Doug and I are in a group together. So I know Doug, but I'm like, I want some more meat. And so we gave you 3 of the steps that you can make money in a podcast, but he's got 2 more. And so I'm going to give a bone and give you the 5 ways to make money podcast in a mini course. That's going to be in the show notes. So that you can just click that so you can get to know Doug. And it's a great PDF along with videos with you and JJ. She's a doll. Thank you for sharing her with us.
Thank
right?
you.
So let's talk about so many people right now are struggling, right? They're struggling from Zoom fatigue, COVID fatigue, pandemic fatigue, recession scary, war scary. So what's your secret sauce in not paying attention to that and staying in action and growing? Like, how are you, Doug, staying focused, still making it happen, getting rid of the noise, and being a badass?
Well, and I appreciate you calling me a badass. Not many people have. I usually get. I'm such a nerd.
But nerd sexy now, not like when we were kids.
For me, I really did want to stay in my zone of genius. I wanted to do what I love doing, and what I love doing is really talking about the products and services that I have and building relationships. I didn't want to do all of the other stuff. I didn't want to have to do, in my case, I didn't want to have to learn how to launch a podcast. I didn't want to have to go through the entire process and all of the editing and distribution and I just wanted to create content. So for me, I really wanted to focus on just doing the stuff that's within my zone of genius. And I really didn't want to spend 40 hours a week doing other stuff.
Right.
So the way that I've been able to maintain whatever that badass status is, if there is any status that's out there, is really staying within my zone. And my zone is building relationships and sharing the knowledge that I have. When I start to step outside of that, and I'm sure many people in your community can relate, when you start to step outside of the stuff that is your zone of genius, you start to get fatigued. You start to see that this really isn't, it's like if I ever find myself in a spreadsheet, or if I ever find myself doing my accounting, or if I'm ever finding myself in systems development, or even in any of the IT that's out there, the technology, I know that I'm in the wrong spot. So I've brought on people, and I know you teach this as a part of your strategy and just building a business right. Look, we put a team next to us and beside us and along with us because we don't feel like if I'm spending time doing things that are not within my expertise, I get very tired very quickly. I get annoyed when things don't work in my favor. I feel like a failure when I'm not able to put something in the win column. When, however, I'm able to spend time doing my relationship building and selling and the stuff that I really love doing, I find that, number one, it takes me less time, but secondly, I have greater success. So for me, badassery is all about staying in your, as Gay Hendricks would call it in his book, The Big Leap, he would call it, stay in your zone of genius, the stuff that comes easily to you, your gifts that you think are like, well, why would anybody want to buy this from me? Because it comes so easily to us. We think that everybody has that talent. The challenge is that very few people have the skills, the unique value proposition that you are offering. Get out of the stuff that you don't do well. Stay in the stuff that you do well. Lean into that and let everybody else do the other stuff, which is why we've done stuff like we've put together the entire back end of putting a podcast together and the editing and distribution and the launching of the podcast, all that stuff. Most people don't want. They want the results that the podcast can offer. They just don't want to do the work that's required in order to become successful at it. So we've taken all that off their plate.
Right. You're either going to do the work, right? And that's going to cost you time and money because you don't know how to do it and you're going through a learning curve, or you hire someone to do the work that's an expert. And it always seems more expensive up front, but in the long run, it's always more cost effective. Like when it's like me trying to build a funnel in Infusionsoft. Not my zone of genius. Can I do it? Sure. How many days would it take? Not my zone of genius. Right. So that truly is, we always talk about being, what's the highest income producing activity only you can do, and do that. Right. So I love that you're just reiterating, you say it a different way, but it's all the same but different. Right.
Yeah. And the same thing is with like course creation. It's like, okay, do you want to spend your time building? Yes, you have all the wisdom that needs to go into the course, but is your time best spent building an email campaign or building an online course? Probably not. It makes much more sense to bring, yes, it does cost you money up front to do that stuff, but the ROI that you're going to get from that would greatly offset the labor that you've put into it as well. So I encourage people to stay out of the stuff that doesn't serve them best.
Right. And really find someone that's an expert in it, right? Do due diligence, because we've all done that. There's so many people in our industry that are just trying to sell a solution that's not even a solution. And so I'm here because, again, everyone that's on this podcast, I have vetted, I have talked to, I've experienced them. I've asked for, I was telling Doug today, I'm stalking him. Is he the real deal? Right. Because, it's scary as an entrepreneur. We've got limited funds, right, in order to turn that revenue stream on. So,
and I challenge everybody that's in your community to look within the community itself. Susie has created this great community. I bet there are people that are in the community that you are meeting with on a regular basis that can do the stuff that is not in your zone of genius. Keep all the wealth within, keep it within your organization, and wealth begets wealth. The rising tide rises all ships. And the chances are much better if you work within the community, that community will come back to repay you as well.
So one thing I love about this podcast that's slightly different from other people is we talk about the real shit, right? And so to grow a business, we've all been knocked down, dragged, bloody elbows, bloody knees, right? And so many times we just teach on our mountaintops. We don't talk about the real behind the scenes. So Doug, what has been, some people call them failures. I call them learning lessons. What was that biggest, it could be this year, it could be since the pandemic, it could be, in the beginning, middle, end, or wherever you're at inside this journey. So what's been that experience for you? What was the thing that humbled you and you went, damn, I wish I knew then what I knew now, so that maybe we can glean from that and not have to do that?
2 years of struggle. I mean, it really came down to that. I spent 30 years as a bar mitzvah DJ, and I was probably the best paid bar mitzvah DJ in the DC marketplace, dealing in the high-end social scene. I mean, I would go out from $5,000 to $7,000 for a 4-hour event, and I would do that 100 times a year. And I had to start over again in 2000. I didn't have to, but I saw the writing on the wall. At that point, I was nearly a 50-year-old guy trying to figure out, can I be still that cool guy or semi-cool guy out on the center of that dance floor doing the cha-cha slide and the, and the booty call with everybody. And the challenge was that, the answer was I didn't have to make that decision. My market was making it for me. So it reduced the amount of jobs that I would have a year. And I saw the writing on the wall when I went from having 110 advanced bookings to having 70, to having 60, to having 50. And somewhere around 50, I said, I better start whatever it is that's going to be that next step in my career. So in 2014, I wrote this book, Nice Guys Finish First, and started a podcast called The Nice Guys on Business, keeping in the brand. And we went through 2 years of struggle, $0 of revenue coming into that company. And fortunately, I had the tail end of my DJ business that was fading at the same time that this business was building. So the struggle for me was 2 years of going from being the best at something to being a nobody at something. Yeah. And there is no more humbling experience than being a complete nobody when it comes to this new industry. I'm like, who the hell is ever going to buy what I have? Right. And so it was 2 years of struggle, but it was a struggle that I came out, when through contrast comes clarity. The contrast of really understanding that I have to reinvent myself. It became really clear that I just couldn't just hold my hand out and expect that money to come in anymore. So I reinvented my career, reinvented my products and services, and listened to my community when they told me exactly what they wanted and how they wanted it delivered. I went in the direction that my community said, and it took another 5 years to get us to where we are right now. We'll do probably close to 300 launches over the course of the from where we started back in 2017, really, when we started to lean into the business, to where we are right now, about 300 podcast launches. And it's been an amazing journey. And while there has been a lot of struggle, there's also been a lot of wins, a lot of victory. And it has completely changed my mindset, my feeling of confidence in myself. I did it once. I can do it again. I can become successful at something. And it really, success leaves clues, and we've done some really good things over the years, and we've been able to teach those things to the people that we launch and strategize with to help them do the same thing with their podcast as well.
I love that. That's a juicy story. It is humbling, right? I did that when I sold my business. I was the icon, and then all of a sudden go into this entrepreneur space, and they're like, who are you? And I'm like, obviously I'm a big deal.
At least in my own head, I'm a big deal, right?
I thought I was a big deal. I didn't even know I had an ego, like that kind of ego. I was like, whoo, that was humbling. So that's a huge accomplishment, right? To not give up. There's so many people use the back door, right? The back door of I'll just do what's safe. I'll just do something else. 2 years, 24 months, that's a long time, right? Success is right around the corner. Don't quit. Just stay committed to the path. And
the problem that most people they quit 3 feet from gold. They stop digging, and I'm like, stop thinking that you have a plan B. Burn the boats. This is it. It was like, and I'm not a career jumper. I'm like 30 years as this other career. I'm like, I've got to figure this thing out. And yeah, I'm looking for opportunity. It doesn't mean that I can't change my path. My path since 2014 has been a jumbled mess, but it has had one trajectory, and that trajectory has been upward. And as long as you feel like, to a degree, that you are making, you're making progress, then you probably are making progress. But don't give up, because you're just giving up on yourself. You're just going to change the face of your business and go do something else. You've got to really be consistent. Stay consistent in the game, and you will be successful no matter what you do. And I'd love to have everybody in your audience become a podcaster, but podcasting may not be the ticket for them. It may be something else. Just know whatever your ticket is, and stay true to it, and stay consistent with getting your content out there to the world.
Right. If that makes you poke a needle in your eye, do something different, right?
Exactly.
Right. I did the same thing in speaking. I didn't want to be a speaker, but I was like, how do I get in front of 50 people quick? Right. Versus having 50 one-on-one sales conversations. I'm like, I need to make this work, and I need to make it work quick.
That is the best part. That is the best. I was going to say that it's the best thing about podcasting. Some people might say, well, I only have like 7 or 10 or 20 people that are listening to my show. I'm like, can you imagine filling a conference room once a week with 7 to 20 people?
Yeah.
You're not going to be, unless you have some people that already bring a huge community to the podcasting space, you're not going to be Tim Ferriss and have 1 million, 2 million, 5 million people listening to your show every week. You only need probably 20 to 100 people listening to your show on a regular basis to make a 6-figure income. And I really want to emphasize that it's not about the downloads. I'm using the downloads as, and in the community that you're growing, as a benchmark, so that you have at least a number in your mind. But you don't need tens of thousands, or you certainly don't need millions of people to listen to your show in order to make a significant income using your podcasting as a tool. And that's partly the value proposition, the unique value proposition that we bring to the table. Is we teach you, yes, you can get downloads, but it's not about the downloads. It's about putting the right people aligned to your message into that guest seat and making a fortune based upon that.
Well, I always say business is a game. Know what the rules are, right? The downloads are for publicity. The downloads are for when you're being interviewed. The downloads are for your credibility, but it's not for the ROI, the return on investment, right? What you're speaking to is the return on investment. Let's get in front of the right people, build that relationship, because podcasts are a great way to build the relationship. They hear you in so many different contexts.
100%.
Hear you
100%.
interview, see what kind of people you attract, right? That's why I always ask badass people to be on mine, because I'm like, these are my friends, nutty nutty boo boo.
It's kind of like the badge of honor that we get for being an Amazon bestseller. I mean, Again, I'm an Amazon bestseller too. I sold my book in 2015. Nice Guys finished first, and it did really well on the Amazon list. And that, and maybe another $50 would get me a couple of dinners at Hardee's. It's not like you're using the podcasting space to enhance your credibility, to become an influencer, to begin to build your community, and to monetize. You are not going to get rich from your podcast. You're going to get rich from the exposure that your podcast is going to provide for you, which is why I always tell everybody, hey, let's get a real good handle on your getting to know your mom, your market, your offer, and your message. And once you get to know your mom, you can take your podcast to the sky, because it will absolutely reward you.
Such a great segue, like where I'm going. So let's talk about wealth strategies, right? Because that's my jam. And what I commit to our listeners is that we want to hear, like, what's Doug's wealth strategies? What's the way that you monetize your wealth? Because people can make $250,000, $1 million, but that doesn't mean they're taking home money or building their wealth. They just might be making money. So what's kind of Doug's wealth strategy? What's that thing that you've learned in your years of doing business?
Well, absolutely. You want to, as I just touched upon, you want to know who your mom is. If you don't know your mom, then you really are going to have a challenging time monetizing your podcast or monetizing your business for that matter. And when I say getting to know your mom, let's just break that down into the simple three. Your mom. The first M stands for getting to know your market. If you don't know who is in your market, then you're just an arrow that's just kind of flying out there in the world. You've got to be able to have a target to hit. So you've got to know who is in your market. Who is that ideal avatar to buy your products and services? The O stands for offer. If you don't have a specific offer, if you don't have a number of offers that you probably want to make, whether it's a DIY program for $1,000 or a full service program for $7,500 or whatever it is, if you don't have a specific offer, when you do find your market, that first M, how are you going to know what to sell them? So you have to have a specific offer. So that's your market and your offer. And then message, like, what are you all about? How are you going to present this? What is your branding about? What is your look and feel about? What's your vibe? If you ran into the perfect person and you had the perfect offer for them, does that mean that anybody that fits your market and your offer that has a checkbook is going to be your client? Well, for us, we know that that is not the case. We want people that are aligned with our community. We want people that are aligned with how they are holding themselves and conduct themselves in business. I'll tell you, the challenging part is having an unrealistic customer start making demands and expectations that don't fall in line with the products and services that we offer. So they're in our market. They want to buy our offer. So because their money is green, we want them as a client. No, I want to choose the clients that I have, and I want them to fit into our culture. I want them to fit into how we provide our services. And if they have unrealistic expectations, I don't care how green their money is. I don't want to take their money from them because that's going to lead us down a bad path with that customer right out of the gate. So align yourself with your getting to know your mom, your market, your offer, and your message. And that probably in a nutshell would condense my wealth strategy, what it takes to get me to that wealth stage.
That's awesome. And so in building your own personal wealth, is there anything that you would do differently or started younger?
Wow. I have always been, it's funny, right after we have this conversation in about an hour.
Not that Doug's old. Let me just say that. Not that Doug's old, right?
That's okay. In an hour from now, I'm actually going to present there are basically four kinds of people that are out there. One of them, which is me, is I'm definitely the saver. My mom taught me very early on the importance of having a good credit score. So I'm not saying this from a bragging perspective. Right. I'm saying this because my mom told me I needed to have an 800 credit score or above. And I've been very fortunate. I've had an 850 almost my entire life as a credit score. That being said, I am a saver. There are many people that are spenders that are out there. Many people like to just spend it as quickly as it comes in. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying that hasn't been the thing that's been for me. I would probably say if I were to do anything differently moving forward than I didn't do in the past, it would be probably to take a little bit more risk when it comes to investing in me. Your biggest investment, your best investment should be you. And if you're so focused on putting money in the bank, you're starving the idea of putting more money into you and your business, then I think that you are probably making, at least from where I'm sitting, you could be making a mistake. It's going to hurt and there's going to be some risks that you need to take. But I think they're valuable risks, especially if you're investing in you. And I would say if there would be anything that I would change, it probably would be to have taken a little bit more risk on myself earlier on in this journey that has lasted me since 1977. I've been since the age of 13. I've been in the workforce. So for me, I would probably take a little bit more risk in me.
I love that. I had to learn the opposite, right? Nobody talked about money in my family. So the minute you had it, it went through your fingers. I had to learn to save, which was a whole different discipline, right? But there's a shift, right? You get to that point where you start seeing it grow and you're like, I don't want to spend that. I don't want to spend that. I don't want to spend that, which is exciting.
Yeah. My mom was always a very big proponent of taking some of the money that you're making and putting some of that money in the bank. I think to the point, to a fault for me, I would save too much and not spend enough on putting it back into my business. And I can see some of those characteristics still in me. today. I love having money in the bank. That's great. But if you have money in the bank and you're sacrificing the future profit that your business can generate, then I think that then you've probably taken it a little too far.
Right, or quality of life, or whatever that thing is that you want. I remember the first time I invested 100 grand into a coach. I remember, signing it, feeling really good about doing it. And then I went, if I'm willing to pay someone 100 grand, somebody's going to pay me 100 grand because I got to put this money up.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to be able to spend it before anyone will pay you. I see coaches, speakers going, here's what it is, but you've never spent that on yourself.
It's really scary. And I know that some of you that are listening to this right now, when Susie just said that $100,000 number, you just went, what the hell? There's a big gulp. You start small and you start making small investments in yourself. Susie, I'm sure, did not one day say, I'm going to spend $100,000 without kind of building to that. First you get into your $10,000 mastermind, then you get a $25,000 mastermind, 100 grand. And also, Susie probably just didn't spend the 100 grand saying, I'm spending $100,000. She knew based upon that investment, and it's an investment in you, she knew based upon that investment that she had a certain expectation of return on that investment. And if you're not getting 2 to 10x your investment, then she probably wouldn't. I'm speaking for you. I'm hoping I'm not speaking wrong.
Absolutely. It's good that you affirm that, because that is exactly it, right? Is that little monumental to go, the more you earn, the more you learn, right? The more you earn, the more you learn, the more you learn, the more you earn. It goes both ways. And one of my girlfriends always shared the Benjamin Franklin quote that says, take the coins from your purse, invest them in your mind, and your mind will fill your purse overflowing. Because I grew up in a large family, we didn't go to college, right? And that was the only way. I didn't even really knew college was an option until I started having friends that went to college. I'm like, didn't know that was an option, right? So I think that investing in yourself is the best asset that you can do, right? As long as you're in radical action around it. There's so many people that buy courses, buy books, buy experts, and then they don't do anything with it. Like, you got to do something. When I was running Lisa Nichols' company, she wrote, she was involved in The Secret. And I can't tell you, Doug, how many people would call our office and go, Lisa said, just meditate about money and then checks will show up in the mailbox. I'm like, she also said you have to take action and have a plan. Did you not hear that part?
Well, people only hear what they want. Sometimes they only hear what they want to hear. Absolutely. And I so very much respect, the path that you have. You've had a much more challenging time on that path. I mean, I was brought up in it. We always talked about money in our house, and money was really important. And I think it was really, money is energy, and money will create more money. And when you don't have those conversations going on in your environment, you kind of are left out there to learn them all by yourself. And many people end in a much worse, a very bad scenario when they're not talking about money all along.
Right. I think there's still a taboo. Like, people don't want to talk about sex. They don't want to talk about money. We both love it. We love both. Let's talk about that. Right? But talk about with people who are accomplished in finances, who are willing to share. That's why I love having this transparent conversation to go, what would I do differently? What is your wealth strategy? What is that, so that we can learn together? Because when we can start taking about normalizing it, right, then it makes all the fear go away. It's not scary. Money's fun, right? Money gives us options. Money gives us a tool. We can make a bigger difference in the world. The more money I make, the more people I can touch. So,
yeah,
Doug,
I think that's great.
What's one thing that at the end, whenever the end is for you, what do you want to be remembered for?
It's funny. I always tell my kids, don't forget what I want on my headstone. he made me laugh.
Yeah.
I really, as I have gotten into my 50s, and definitely not when I was in my 30s or even my 20s, I realized while it's important to make a good living and to be able to do the things that you want to do, I think that if you start with what you love, the money will come. If you start with what you're passionate about, the money will come. It is not just about how do I get that person that I'm talking to right now to put their hand in their pocket and pay me for the service that I provide. I want to like the person. I want to really enjoy when people come to me and they're interested in launching a podcast. I want to get to know them as a person And if we gel and things seem right, then yeah, let's keep moving. Yes, there's a transaction involved. There is a certain importance for you to put skin in the game so that I know that you're serious about this. But on the other side of it, I can tell you that I know that I want to like the person that I'm dealing with. And if I don't like that person, I have a really hard time with wanting to spend any time teaching them, coaching them. So I don't know. That just for me is a really important indicator of like the kind of business person that you want to be. Get to know the people that you're working with. Do you want to spend most of your time with people that you don't like? No, I want to spend all my time with people that that I enjoy their company, that I have good conversations, deep conversations about the shit that's important in life, and that's kind of what I want to do.
I love it. All money's not good money. So listen, you can hear Doug's a brother from another mother. So you can hear our language is the same. We're saying the same message, saying it different. So you didn't know I had a brother. You knew I had 3 brothers. You didn't know Doug was one of those brothers. We can add you to the pack. There's a pack. All
right. I like it. What day is my day to do the dishes?
Let's see. Do you eat chocolate or cookies? Because
all of those things. Oh my gosh.
I learned the power of money because there was 9 of us, right? And dishes, think about dishes with 11 people in the household with no dishwasher. We were the dishwashers, right? And so you think about it, every night was Thanksgiving dinner. And so I learned the value of trade. I would hold on to my candy and my cookies, and Doug would eat his real fast, or my brother Stevie would eat his real fast. And I'm like, you want a cookie? You could do my dishes. The power of chocolate, man.
I grew up with a fairly famous dad in the world of sales. My dad created a system called Sandler Sales. And what was so cool about
fairly, he's that guy.
What's so cool about having my dad in my life. Now, he wasn't the greatest dad in the world, but he was an amazing business guy. Yeah. And he used to tell me every time that I would find, even as a teenager, if I would find something I really enjoy doing, or there was something like a thing that I love to build or whatever, he's like, find the person that has done exactly what you love. That's 5-10 years advanced down the road. Copy exactly what that person, with their permission. They'll probably even help you. If you call that person, they'll probably even help you figure out what they have done. Create the system, and then teach other people how to create that system. And you'll never be short of finding work that you love to do. And everything I've done, from DJing to podcasting, I've stolen other people's great ideas with their permission. They're like, hey, sure. When I was in the DJ business, the same thing. I kind of took other people's ideas, and I didn't take it from I'm going to steal your idea and profit from it. I would go to them and say, hey, will you help me with this? I really think I could do this too in my own way. Can you teach me this system? And they would build my systems for me and duplicate again and again and again. And it has been a great way to get myself out of the trading time for dollars. When you have a process or something that you provide, if you're the only one that provides it, when you stop providing that service, you're going to stop making money. So I'd rather teach this process to other people, teach the system to other people, and let them duplicate for me. And it has been a great lesson to learn.
And we don't want people dependent on us, right? A truly great coach, it teaches you what you need to learn, shows you what you don't want to see, so you could be the person you knew that you could be. Right. I don't want people to depend on me like they can't win if I'm not there. Then I haven't done my job. Right. I haven't done my mission in life. So Doug has given us a special, right? I told you he's my brother from another mother, so I got the hookup. So you're giving scholarships away. So let's talk about this scholarship. What is it? What are you giving away? You are being so incredibly generous. One, because he knows our people. He knows our tribe. He's like, Susie, your tribe is my tribe. So share with us what you got for us.
So we have something called the Ultimate Podcast Launch School for those in your community that haven't launched a podcast yet, but are considering launching a podcast. Or if you have launched a podcast and you just haven't gotten your podcast wheels under you, then this is a great thing for you. It's called the Ultimate Podcast Launch Formula. Normally we sell it for $997, but I'm going to give it to everybody that's in your community free. Now, here's the catch. You get it free, but there is a catch to it. Number one, I want you to put some skin in the game. So I'm going to take $297 of your money and I'm going to put it in my bank account until you have launched your show and put out 10 episodes. Once you do that, you've proven to me that you are now a podcaster. You can have your $297 back. It is a guarantee. I've never not given back the money when somebody has said, hey, I launched my podcast. Here's my 10 episodes. I want my $297. They always get it back. So it's a $997 course. I'm giving it to you completely free. You got to give me the $297. You get it back. It'll take you about somewhere between 15 days to 60 days to launch your podcast based upon our formula that we have. The easiest way to do that, can I give them the link? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay. Just go to turnkeypodcast.com/Susie, SUSIE. You can do a capital S or a lowercase s, either way. So turnkeypodcast.com/Susie. You get the ultimate podcast launch formula. You'll get what I call my ACE method for launching a podcast. You'll get accountability, because I'm going to be here to make sure you do the shit that you're supposed to do. You're going to get a community, because I'm going to put you in my Facebook group with a whole bunch of other people that are going through or have gone through the same process that you've gone through. And I'm going to give you the education, a really easy 5-module course that's going to walk you through every step. And you're going to have a podcast, and you'll be launched, and you'll get your money back. Or, of course, you can spend it on me if you want to do additional coaching down the road. But for Susie's community, of course, none of that is an obligation. Just $297. It's a $997 course, 100% free. You'll get your seat deposit back.
I love it. Now, listen, the reason I had Doug on here is because how do I say this? I got scammed. I paid $15,000.
Oui.
And it wasn't nearly what Doug's giving for a deposit of $297, which he said he'd give it back. I'm like, $297, you're going to give it back? Jesus, right? And so I had to fight to get my money back, because what was promised, what was delivered, it was like, hold on a second, right? I followed the sparkle and the squirrel, right? Because they were highly recommended. So I say that to say, right, this is the real deal, right? Doug knows what he's doing. He has high integrity. And more importantly, he's willing to commit us so we get our name out there, right? So that we can get seen, we can get heard, we can get paid. That's the goal, is leveraging this and doing it right, and doing it so that we make money at it, right? All roads lead to money. And this is one avenue that can lead to money. And he's going to give us 5 ways, and he's going to give us a turnkey formula, which, I love. I'm a systems girl. Just show me the system. I can duplicate that. Doug, you are a beast. Thank you. You're a badass and a beast.
Well, thank you,
and
Susie.
my brother. Look, we got all the B words today. So
I appreciate that. If somebody in your community is saying, why the hell would he want to do that? What does he get out of this? I know that if you get closer to me and you see that I have the goods, that I actually deliver the goods, the chances are better than not that you will stay with me to do production for your podcast. And there is a fee that's attached to that. There's no obligation to do that, but I want to let you know that the reality of it is that I want you to get your podcast launched, because the way that you get into this space and the way that you become successful is doing the work. And if money is the reason, that's the thing that's held you back, I've just taken that out of your way. And if technology is the thing that's holding you back, I've just taken that out of your way, because I'm going to teach you all about the tech that goes into it also.
Which you don't want to do that your own. Don't spend dollar time on penny jobs. That's a penny job for you. That's your dollar time, is go sell some stuff to pay for Doug, right? In that production. So Doug, thank you so much. I appreciate you. So Doug, let's get your podcast, your website address as well. And how do we find you on social? Let's get all the goods, because we need to follow you, find you.
Yep. So turnkeypodcast.com. That is my website. Just go over there and check us out. You can find us on Instagram at TurnKey Podcast. It's pretty much that simple. And we have our Facebook page. It's TurnKey Podcast. So pretty easy.
Awesome. Thank you, Doug. If you love Doug and you know your community needs to hear this, please share it. Please like us. Please leave a comment for Doug. Time and money, people need to hear this message. Like, be in business for yourself, not by yourself. We're your champion. We want to help you leverage what you're up to, monetize what you're up to, but more importantly, make a bigger impact in the world. Thank you for being on Power Your Profit Podcast. I am your host, Susie Carter, and my amazing guest, Doug Sandler. I adore you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits Podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at https://poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game, so be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.